to bring on the positive vibe. Wherever we go, we are gonna do what makes us feel right. I'm just getting off the train, damn see me in work all day. I just wanna kick back and relax my feet.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining the Soul Purpose Show. You see us here every Saturday on In Touch News Radio, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Hopefully, some of you will join us streaming live today. I am your host, Keith, and I'm back with my lovely co-host, Monica. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? Good morning, everybody.
Thank you again. Thank you for tuning in. We have a really special show today. If you saw us last week, our theme for last week's show was just really kind of deconstructing anti-racism. I know it's a very popular subject, but it's important, I think, with everything going on, that people really kind of understand the difference between some of the terms.
Yeah.
So if you had if you did not get an opportunity to check it out, go back on our page and check it out. So you probably will learn something about racism and diversity that you did not know before. So. And you also heard that our goal for this month and for next month is to really focus on historically Black colleges and universities. So we issued a challenge to HBCUs to really engage. So this is our time to show the world who we are.
Absolutely.
So we're going to take the whole month and talk about HBCUs.
And if you have not had an opportunity to sign up, go ahead and visit the website hc2020challenge.com. If you're an alumni that's doing phenomenal things and you want to highlight your university and encourage your alumni to give back, then we encourage you to go to the website and sign up. We've really gotten a lot of good response, mostly Rattlers, but that's okay because we run the world. But nonetheless, if you are a member of an HBCU, we won't, bemoan anybody else's opportunity to come on the show. We are equal opportunity space.
Almost equal opportunity space.
But in all seriousness, that's the goal for October, is to highlight HBCUs, HBCU graduates. And so if you're interested, feel free to jump over to the hc2020challenge.com website and sign up.
Absolutely. So we are super excited about this morning's show because, as Monica mentioned, we are both graduates of Florida A&M University.
The Florida Agricultural Mechanical University, which was once again voted #1 public HBCU for U.S. News and World Report. That should be no surprise.
You had to throw that in there.
I absolutely did.
All right. Well, listen, without further ado, I want to bring in our guests. We have 4 distinguished guests today.
We have 4 distinguished guests, one of whom all of them super excited about, but one is a surprise guest.
A surprise guest. Let's start with the vice chair of the Florida A&M Foundation, Ms. Lisa LaBoo.
Good morning, Lisa. How are you?
How are you, Lisa? Unmute yourself and say hello.
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you all this morning?
Good, great.
Doing fantastic. And bringing the heat today will be my proud fraternity brother, Colonel Greg Clark, is the president of the Florida A&M University National Alumni Association. Brother Clark, how are you, sir?
Good. Any Rattlers in the house?
Absolutely.
And our surprise guest today is actually Dr. Shante Friday Stroud, who is the dean of the illustrious School of Business and Industry.
I'm happy you got that right, because if you said SBI, I was going to have to jump in and say you're going to have to give us our school all our credit. Right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. But she also serves. Yes. She must be Caribbean, so because she got all kinds of jobs.
I'm from Mississippi. I am not Caribbean based. I am from Mississippi.
He can say that because he is.
Part of the Delta.
She's a vice president of university advancement. A lot of people don't even know what that means, right. But that's a huge responsibility. How are you this morning, Dr. Friday Stroud?
I am doing exceptionally well. Thank you all for allowing me to sneak in.
Absolutely.
We're glad to have you. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, we are honored to have the 12th president in our over 100-year history of Florida A&M University. My wife has promised me that we was going to get a strike again before it was all over. I'm holding out hope. Please, everyone, welcome Dr. Larry Robinson to our show.
Good morning, Monica and Keith. It's my pleasure to join you this morning with these other esteemed guests. And we have a a new sort of nickname for Dr. Friday Stroud. We call it Deep Pockets, right?
Deep Pockets, I like that. I like that. Well, thank you.
That's because he put me to work so hard, as you can see. But hey, we try to answer the call.
Look. So I just want to thank all of you all again for kind of carving out some time to join us. But I wanted to go ahead and keep this conversation off. And I wanted to ask you, Dr. Robinson, starting the conversation off, we're talking about HBCUs, and we understand the importance of HBCUs because we are graduates of an HBCU. But can you explain, some of our listeners are not familiar with HBCUs and their importance and their history. So could you kind of explain to our guests why HBCUs are so fundamentally important in our world?
So let me just begin by saying most people in this country should realize that the African-American Black middle class in this country is primarily there due to historically Black colleges and universities. Of course, there was a time, in higher education in particular, that was your only choice, right? However, in today's world, when you look at the percentage of African-Americans in STEM disciplines, certain business disciplines, you look at the doctors, lawyers, and judges, you find a phenomenal number of them who come from historically Black colleges and universities. So much so, I tell parents who are looking for places to send their sons and daughters that they would be irresponsible not to take a very, very hard look at the nation's historically Black colleges and universities. And let me put these rankings that you mentioned in perspective, right? Because, we are in very, very good company. There are different ways they slice those rankings. One is an HBCU ranking, and then there's another National Public Universities ranking. And so in the National Public rankings of all public institutions, we're ranked 117, right? Up 6 spots from just a year ago. Now, that's not just the HBCUs, that's everybody. And so it tells you that the quality of the educational experience at Florida A&M University, is premium. And you would be not giving your sons and daughters, nieces and nephews, and everyone else you love, the full benefit of the doubt by not taking a look at Florida A&M University. And then that's the HBCU rankings, right? Well, we're proud of being tied with our colleagues from North Carolina A&T as the #1 ranked public HBCU. Everybody above us are private institutions, right? And Dr. Friday Stroud is going to take care of that because a lot of that has to do with fundraising, et cetera, a lot of other good things there. But the bottom line, when you look at Florida A&M University and the array of academic programs that we have, right, we can get you anywhere. Just this week, for example, Dr. Friday Stroud and Cheryl Booker Harris, another SBI graduate, hosted perhaps one of our most accomplished graduates. We had a conversation with John Thompson, the chairman of the board of Microsoft, right? I mean, from FAMU, right? This place on the heights of 7 Hills in Tallahassee. If you can be the chairman of Microsoft, being educated in the same schools that you were, Monica, educated in at FAMU, then what else is there to say, right? So the conversation actually is shifting. There's another element. And I do want to point this out too. We also rank 20th out of all institutions in the nation in terms of social mobility. And that's a measure of, where your students come in, how quickly they get out, and what happens to them afterwards. 20th out of all the institutions in America. And there are only 2 institutions who ranked higher than us in the state of Florida. So this is a phenomenal place. People are arguing about, the relevance of HBCUs. The question has changed. What would this world be like without historically Black colleges and universities? That ought to be the question.
Yeah. And so with the rankings, how do you sell that to a parent? Because even with all of the accolades that you have highlighted relative to A&M specifically, and we know that several other HBCUs have, are doing phenomenally as well. I see when I'm talking to parents as an alumni attempting to try to recruit students that there's still some pushback from parents because there's this notion that when you go to an HBCU that we party all the time. We have a good time, but I think we still are focused on education. So how can alumni help the university in dispelling that myth with this rankings aside, because I think those are absolutely important, but how do you sell that? How do alumni sell that?
So you have to tell them the real story, right? And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't wake up every day, going through U.S. News and World Reports to see what the rankings are, right? What those reflect, however, is the hard work of our faculty, our staff, administrators, and our students. To get those kinds of rankings, there's some underlying metrics, right? In terms of graduation rates, giving rates, all of those kinds of things that really make the education experience at FAMU so special. So you can't just say we're ranked number one this or number 117 this. You have to translate that into something that parents want to hear. You have a much better chance of graduating, right? You have a much better chance of finding a job, right? You might have a much better chance of going on to that next level. In fact, we are consistently in the top, 2 or 3 institutions in the nation for students who start in a STEM-related discipline and go on to doctoral degrees. I mean, those are the kinds of conversations you have to have with parents and sort of break it down to them so they can understand that all of this means is that there's a wonderful set of people at Florida A&M University who put their arms around the young men and women who come, just like they did for you, to make sure that they achieve perhaps even better than they thought, right? Yeah. And, we tell our students all of the time, the other thing that you don't have to worry about at Florida A&M University is proving to us that you have the capacity to do anything and be anything you want to do. That's a whole lot of wasted energy and mental frustration that students face in a lot of other places. We tell them the only thing you have to prove to us at Florida A&M University is that you're willing to work as hard on your own behalf as we are willing to work on your behalf as an institution.
That's outstanding, and I want to ask Dr. Friday Stroud. We have a lot of reasons to be proud of our university and the job that we do. Here's the reality: obviously, is we're in the middle of a pandemic, and I can only imagine what on-campus life has meant to you and the other students. Dr. Friday Stroud, give us an idea of some of the unique challenges that have been presented by COVID and what our school has done to address those things.
So, we know Dr. Robinson talked about, students graduating and students having the capacity. So we know that the academic capacity is definitely not an issue, but where students have an issue a lot of times is on the financial side, right? Because if you think about more than 60% of our students are Pell eligible, and then you have close to 90% are receiving some type of financial aid. And so what we find is that if we can help plug that gap on the financial side, that goes a long way to helping the students. And so that is multi-pronged, right? So you have the recruitment scholarships to get them in the door. And then you need the retention, the progression and retention scholarships to keep them. And then you have the graduation piece, right? And so the NAA has definitely come in and they have made a huge splash on the graduation side, right? With the Save Our Students campaign. And I'm sure President Clark will talk about that later. But the getting them in the door on the recruitment side, right? Having those scholarships, being able to provide students. And we know a lot of times students may not be working to their full capacity for various reasons, right? Today, more students are having to work way more hours than any of us ever did when we were going through college, right? I remember going through college and my daddy used to say, your only job is school, right? And I got a little piece of a job, probably like my junior, senior year, but that was for extra change. That wasn't to pay for my tuition. But literally we have students that are working sometimes 2 and 3 jobs to be able to pay for school. We have students who have to stop out because they have to work to save up enough money to clear last semester's balance to then save enough for the upcoming semester balance. And so that is a huge piece. And COVID exacerbated that, right? Because they were already doing that pre-COVID, but with COVID, we know that a lot of families' financial situations have changed. Parents have lost jobs. And so students are literally working way more hours trying to make up that family financial household gap. And then when you look at the other piece to that COVID exposed was On campus, students had access to the computer labs, right? So they could go to the library, they could go to the computer labs in their schools or colleges. Certain programs, they had access 24 hours a day. What COVID exposed is a lot of our students didn't have laptops, right? Or let me say academically appropriate laptops, because a Chromebook won't allow you to use Respondus lockdown browser to take an exam. So while it may enable you to write your papers and do your research, it doesn't give you the full academic, breadth that you need. And so what we found is that students needed laptops. So we went on a campaign with FAMU Cares. We kicked that off. Ironically, we were already planning our inaugural Day of Giving back in April. And we had to pivot like on a dime and change it to focus on FAMU Cares to raise money to help students to be able to donate laptops for students. Wow. And thankfully, our alums have stepped up, but also our corporate partners have stepped up. And so we've been able to provide laptops to our students that are in need. And, so when you talk about what has COVID shown us, what has it done for the student body? Like, we can see that there are areas where they have needs that didn't show in the way that they're showing now with COVID, right? And then the other piece, a lot of students have family life issues, right? So in many ways, coming to campus was the luxury, right? To get away from the home environment. Yet now many of them are staying at home, right? Because of COVID. And so when you're trying to navigate class life and home life in the background, I remember at the end of last spring semester, we do a session with our students called Guaranteed 4.0 to teach them, it's a learning management system. And so one of the owners of the business, connects with the students, and he literally was having a session with the student, and he heard like the sirens and police in the background. And, he was like, well, do we need to stop talking? And the student was like, no, we don't need to stop. We can keep going. And he said, well, what's going on? Oh, the police just came to, take care of the situation at the house, but we can keep talking. And when I tell you, when I heard that story, like it put me in a whole different mindset, right? Because those are not the things that we think about that our students are dealing with on a daily basis, but they're dealing with them on a daily basis. Yeah. And so to the extent that we can, lessen the financial burden and we can lessen the technological burden that they have, it enables them to, block out some of those distractors to stay focused. And I'm just, super excited that the student support services, the wraparound support services that we still provide for our students remotely. We have mental health counseling. We have academic coaches, the advisors. We are doing everything we can to keep our arms around our students, whether they're physically in Tallahassee or whether they happen to be at home. And so, Dr. Robinson talked about deep pockets and moving up in the rankings. Where we really need help, and, we want other HBCUs to join in too, right? But all HBCUs need their alumni giving back, right? I would say, historically, private universities have done a much better job of that. Their alums know and are kind of ingrained in that philanthropic culture coming in the door. Our public HBCUs, not so much. And that's really a paradigm shift that we have to make. If we want to see changes in our institution, we have to put our money where our mouth is. Mm-hmm. And so really moving up in the rankings for us is really one of the factors that, my shop is tasked with, is increasing our alumni giving rate, right? Yeah. And so, as I tell people, I don't care if it's $1, if it's $5, like, I'm all right, you're gonna get a thank you letter. We appreciate it because it's the collective of all of that that will improve the lives of our students.
That's great. And so that really feeds into Lisa, because I know you are vice chair of the FAMU Foundation. And so for purposes of folks who are watching, because we have several, I'm kind of doing double duty, looking at the people that are in our chat room, kind of explain who the FAMU Foundation is and what their role is relative to what Dr. Friday just shared.
And actually, before I talk about that, I just want to kind of pivot back to the initial question of why FAMU. And it took me back for a minute, because when I was at FAM, I never forget Dr. Frieder, my finance professor. He told me, he said, had you ever considered going into, financial services and finance? And I said, no. And I'm thinking to myself, that is not me. And, what came to mind is, do I want to be in a bank all day? Do I want to wear a blue suit? No. But lo and behold, that's my business. So our professors can see in students that we don't even see in ourselves. Yeah. And then when it was time for me to graduate, when I graduated, and I had a really tough decision. It was one of the toughest decisions I had, trying to decide, am I going to stay in SBI and get my MBA, or am I going to go somewhere else? And professors helped me with that decision. And that same one, Dr. Frieder said, if you stay, we will take care of you. And I never forget those words that he shared. So why FAMU? It's important because you can go anywhere and get an education, but to go and get an education where the faculty, the instructors actually care about you personally, and they will invest in you, and they will make you a part of the FAMU, that speaks volumes. And so that's a different experience of just going anywhere else, because when you leave, you can also go back to those people that you connected with. So I had to put that out there.
That's fine. That's fine.
So the next thing, as far as the FAMU Foundation, pretty much our main goal is to help support the university in many different capacities, but primarily is to help financially. At the end of the day, and I'm going to kind of piggyback on what Dr. Friday Strauss said, is that when students come, for us to be able to get the highest qualified students, that's money. We need that to be able to recruit those students. And so from our standpoint, and I know people are probably tired of hearing me talk about endowments, but I believe in it, because when you look at the Ivy League institutions, it doesn't matter whether the economy is good. It doesn't matter if it's bad, COVID. If you have a strong endowment that's in perpetuity, that's always earning, it's making money while you sleep. That's what I used to tell my daughter. When you have money, you're making money while you sleep. That's what an endowment will do. And as we build upon that foundation, it just strengthens the financial stability of our university. So even though we do have to, financially fundraise every year, but if we can increase our endowment, that just gives us so much more, and we'll always have that money to be able to recruit students to the university. So, and with our alumni, it's so many different ways that we can help out. And I tell you, even my own personal story, when I left FAMU, I was disconnected. I really didn't look back until I was brought back into the FAMU through my sister, bless her soul, and that young man right there, Gregory Clark. And they're the ones who actually help or encourage me to do the endowment. And when I think about it, and I've shared this before, I could have done that $100,000 a long time ago, but I didn't get a call, or no one really talked to me. But when I was pulled back in, I was like, yeah, I remember that call. Ray was like, are you ready? Can you do this? And I said, yes. And then that also enabled me to, reach out and touch other people to encourage them and to help them to understand. Just here recently, we had actually someone that I was in SBI with, his dad passed, and the family decided to do an endowment. And when he told me his whole family were Rattlers, I didn't know that when we were in school together. But there are so many of us out there, but we just have to pull people into the fold and just asking them. We're all connected in some way. I had a call last week. One of my clients said, oh, my brother-in-law graduated from FAMU. I said, okay, I need to talk to him. We were talking about another issue, but as we continue to talk, he said, oh, my whole family graduated from FAMU. And he's like right here in Eustis with me. I said, okay, we need to talk. And you know what that talk is going to be about. But the key thing is just pulling each other in. And the other thing is when Dr. Robinson is going to the different companies, the question they ask is what are your own people doing?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and our number is growing, you know, however, we have so much more to do. And a lot of people don't also understand is that if you give that $20 or $25, that still counts towards our participation rate that we need to get, you know, and I think our goal is 9%, but I would like to see our goal to be 20, 25% and get that moving and exceeding not only others, but to get it to where it really needs to be. Because at the end of the day, I think if you are a graduate of Florida A&M University, you need to be giving back. You need to have a personal goal of what you want to do as far as for the university, but also pulling other people in. And I know when I became a part of the board, my own personal goal is $1 million. I want to be able to raise $1 million for the university at a minimum. And I think I'm doing pretty good, you know, with the endowments. When we add those up, we have a good momentum going there. But again, there's so much that we can do, and it's not hard. Yeah. It's really easy. Get online. I'm going to let you give the website, Dr. Friday's Child. Get online and give your donation to whatever you're passionate about. Because, you know, in the Bible it says, where your heart is, so is your treasure. Right. If you love us, if you love your family, then you will give back. And again, you know, I know it's hard times now, but at the end of the day, a lot of us staying at home, we've saved some money. We're not going to the restaurants. We're not getting our hair done. Our hair did. We're not getting our nails done. We have, you know, and I've had, you know, one of my most recent donors, she was like, Lisa, I have so much money. My accountant told me I need to figure out where I'm going to give some, write me a check.
FAMUrising.com. FAMUrising.com.
She sent me a check. You know, so I will help you to give. Right. And the other thing is giving is good. It really, it makes you feel good about who you are and what you're doing, because to whom much is given, much is required. You know, we can't take it with us. So, and even with our estate planning, we can include FAMU in that. You know, we can help you to set up that real easy. And like I said, even with the endowments, a lot of people, and let me just talk about that for a minute, because even my girlfriend, she's like, Lisa, you keep saying endowment. What is that? That's your space. That's not mine. I said, okay, let me help you to understand. An endowment is a tool that we use that allows you to give. The minimum is $25,000, and you have 5 years to give it. If you have family members that are graduates, you all can contribute. You can name it whatever you want. You can give it your own name, and then you contribute. The key thing is, or the biggest benefit is that when you do that 25, it doesn't disappear or it doesn't go away. It's there forever. And it's a part of your legacy and your family's legacy. Yeah. And it's invested with Common Fund, which is the financial institution that we use to invest the money, and they're doing a great job. And then you can also decide where you want the scholarship monies to go. So let's say if you graduated, my husband's passionate regarding sports, you can have it to go to sports. If you graduated from SBI, you can use it for SBI, education, wherever your heart is, that's where you can help to support these students to not only get to FAMU, but to stay, because there are certain times when it's really critical. So I'm going to leave it at that, because you're not going to talk all day about.
Oh, that's outstanding.
That's phenomenal.
And we love that passion. I gotta tell you, Colonel Clark, it's at least it makes it sound so easy. But now let's deal with some of the obstacles that you run into when you are out there on the stump and you're talking to people about, hey, you know, you should give back to your university. I know I hear things all of the time like, well, I don't understand what are y'all gonna do with my money if I send it back, and some of the obstacles some of the things that you hear about. Share with us how you overcome some of those obstacles when you're out there talking about giving back to family.
Well, I mean, I think you got to keep doing it. Now, I'll say some people just gonna make excuses. You know, we do a good job with communication, so can't say you don't know what's going on out here. All you got to do is go to the NAA site or the FAMU.edu. You can find out what's going on out here. I can assure you that we are good custodians of the funds that come in. We can show you lists of students that get the money. I mean, practically every single week, I get a list from Dr. Hudson of probably up to $10,000 where we're giving SOS money. We don't make a big hoopla about it. We just quietly do it. And to see the pride though, when they walk across that stage, then you know you've done the job, okay? So I say to everybody, don't make that an excuse. You know, we'll wear everybody else's jerseys and everything else. Don't make it an excuse. You graduated from FAMU, and if you got a scholarship from FAMU, you owe her, and it's time to pay up.
All right.
I like that.
You should. So don't make excuses. We're all putting our time in, volunteer time, and even the ones that are employed by the university work more overtime. You probably couldn't pay them for all the stuff that they do. So, we got to continue to talk about it, know the mission. I mean, this stuff is like clockwork, guys. We know that, July, August, September timeframe, we're going to know exactly what the president's legislative priorities are. It's no secret.
Yeah.
All right, now it's time to go to work. He's laid out the blueprint. Now, where do we need to fill the gap in? Okay, Dr. Robinson, what do you need? And then we go to work there and we start working together collectively. And I'm going to say this, Keith and team, we're in a unique situation because I talked to my other counterparts, alumni presidents, and I'm going to tell you, we're in lockstep down in Tallahassee. You don't find a lot of times where you got presidents that understand the missions of the National Alumni Association and how it fits into the foundation and the other support organizations to bring it all together. And the fact that we talk, that's why we are right now, because we think in the same way and we going in the same direction. And as long as we do that, we're going to be just fine. End of the day, it's not about anyone on this call today. It's about them young men and women that's matriculating through the university. If we keep them first, we'll be just fine. So we're on our way, guys. I'm really, really proud of the direction we're in. So everybody just need to give a little bit of time, a little bit of volunteer time. If you can't volunteer, then write the check. But everybody can carve out an hour, because if you can't write the check, send FAMU a student. We're out there. That's giving back, in my opinion, right? You send her some tuition over 3 or 4, 5 years, whatever it may be. You have made an economic impact on the university.
Yeah.
So that's where we are with this.
And so the motto for FAMU is excellence with caring. And I think Dr. Friday Stroud talked about, and Lisa talked about, personal experience in terms of excellence with caring. But Dr. Robinson, you are the captain of this ship. And so I think that this ship, I think this ship works very well. I'm involved, I'm engaged. That is intentional, because as I shared, FAMU gave so much back to me, and I think it's a disservice for me not to do the same. I recognize that that's a challenge. And so Greg came from the perspective of president of the NAA, and I'm going to get into what the NAA does in a second. But Dr. Robinson, how do you, hearing all the things that we're saying, how do you reach those alumni that still, despite all these things that people are saying, are still saying, oh, well, I don't know, because they're there. I've heard it. And these are people who will rock Rattler gear, will come to homecoming, spend thousands of dollars on a hotel room and partying and get their hair done, nails done. And when you ask them about $100 check, they moaning. So, I mean, we're having a real conversation. What do you do, Dr. Robinson, as a captain of the ship to get folks on board?
Yeah, so first, let me go back. I want to refute one thing that Director LaBoo said, as well as Colonel Clark. Director LaBoo, some of us are getting our hair did. So I've been working on mine, and I continue to do that. But Colonel Clark, it is mostly about alumni, though, because, and I'm going to get to this question, Monica, because what I tell people is that all of these rankings are important. The performance metrics formula that we have and all those things, sort of short-term metrics, are important. But the true measure of an institution's value is what does alumni do over the course of their lives, right? And that's where the excellence with caring really began to show. We have people like Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, right? She could have done a whole lot of different things, made a whole lot more money than being the mayor of Atlanta. But, she cares. She cares about her community. She wants to make a difference in her community. The same with Mayor Carter, in St. Paul, Minnesota. He could have done a lot of things, but he chose something that allowed him to apply what he learned at FAMU for a greater purpose. And so what I'm trying to do with regard to alumni is really help them understand, what this institution is and what it isn't, right? One of the things that we, when we were developing our strategic plan that we're currently in called FAMU Rising, we were doing public and, focus group meetings. And one of the things we would hear from some alums, right, is that, that professor who was a little bit hard on them, right? And that bad experience, waiting in that long line for the net check, and foot here. But they got that check. And furthermore, they got a pretty good job to boot. And so we're trying to get them to understand that you have to let that go and look at the bigger purpose of this institution and think where you would be without it, right? Think where, the city, county, state, and nation would be without Florida A&M University. We're on the verge of celebrating 133 years. We got to have people to think about that in context, right? Yeah, you may have gone through a tough era, and this is one that we're in now, but can you imagine how tough it was on October the 3rd, 1887 for Black folks to be educated, right? Can you imagine 5 years later, 10 years later, the struggles that we went through at this institution, in the Jim Crow era? It was very, very tough, but there are people who kept a lot of our alums, and a lot of our alums fought these battles too, kind of insulated from that, they could pursue their educational dreams. We cannot rely, although we need to get every fair share from the state, the federal sector, the private sector, but we cannot rely upon anybody to take care of us. That mindset has to be gone, eliminated. We are going to have to take care of ourselves, and people who want to help us are going to use as a measure how important we are as to how much we're doing to support ourselves. And another thing too, right? And I've often said this, when you hear somebody say anything adverse to the legacy of your alma mater, you got to shut that down, right? And I don't care who it is, just this week, I wrote the CEO of Wells Fargo, Charles Scharf, right? Because he talked about not being able to find Black talent. And you know what's so ironic about that? That's our bank. That's our bank. What's also ironic about that is that our SGA president interned there and has been offered a permanent job there.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine, right? How, so well, wait a minute, And so, we wrote him to tell him, that wait a minute. If you're looking for talent, come to FAMU, right? If you want to create more talent, we can talk to you about doing that as well. So when you hear this kind of nonsense out there, people talking about things that aren't right, you just remind them, right? Tell them these wonderful stories, not just of the past, but we're just inundating, the media with all of the great things that are happening at the university. And then we have to be a good community partner as well. And in that respect, as we approach this, greatest pandemic that we've had in over 100 years, we set up and established, along with our partners at Bond Clinic, Florida Department of Health, Emergency Management, and others, the most efficient and widely used free COVID-19 testing site on our campus at Bragg Memorial Stadium. I said we're not throwing touchdowns this year, but man, we're scoring a lot of points. We would have, by the end of next week or maybe midweek, we would have tested over 50,000 persons since April the 25th. Free, no physician's referrals required. They can walk up from Perry Street. They can drive from Frenchtown. There are no restrictions. No, they don't have to be symptomatic or anything, because we know that in order for us to help this community, we needed to do something, because we know the adverse impacts that COVID-19 is having on people of color and low economic means in this nation. And so we have to be a better community partner. Being such is why it was easy for some members of the blueprint in a governmental agency to award FAMU, $10 million this past week to actually renovate. We call it the Renaissance of Bragg Memorial Stadium, right? And so all of those things help. But our alumni, well, you really have to be the champion, fiercely resist anyone. Now we could talk among ourselves, that professor was hard on you, but he was hard on you for a reason. Yeah, that net check didn't get you there, get you exactly what you needed, but you got it, right? You got out, you got a job, and look at you now, right? Give to your alma mater, right? You may not be able to give, the 100,000 plus that, Vice Chair LaBoo has given, but, give, right? Give what you can. And by the way, I'll repeat this, don't give until it hurts. Give until you can't feel it. Give until you go numb.
Until you go numb. That's his motto. Give till you go numb.
Go numb.
That's a great segue. Dr. Robinson mentioned, and I'm interested in getting all you guys' perspective. You mentioned throwing touchdowns. You mentioned Bragg Stadium. The other thing that we heard in the news this week is Deion Sanders making a decision. He was actually in Tallahassee at Florida State when Dr. Friday Stroud and I were there, making the decision to go back to Jackson, or to go to Jackson State as their head coach. And obviously he's someone who's on the national spotlight. Obviously he's an NFL Hall of Famer, so it's going to create a lot of attention. So I'm interested in getting this group's perspective. When you see a celebrity or a top athlete or someone coming to an HBCU, even if they didn't attend an HBCU.
He actually graduated from Talladega.
Talladega.
That is his graduation.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah, just back in the spring. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. So no, it's cool. Is it just hype, or is it like this is going to have a really substantive impact or significant impact on HBCU?
I think Greg's smiling.
What? I'm just
We're still gonna lay there whooping on it.
Yeah.
In the orange box.
Bring it on. Look,
But,
prime time, anytime. We gonna take that time to spank a little behind.
It's going to be on. I mean, when you get that kind of person, the attention that brings to, to Black college sports, man, you just can't pay for that, right? I mean, he's going to have to do it on the field, though. He's going to have to put a good team together and so forth, and maybe win all of his games every season except for one. But we and I'm wishing Jackson State well, except for one game. But I do think it'll make a difference. A young man, the blue chipper who went to Howard in basketball, it's making a difference, right? And if we can see those kinds of players coming back, right, that we always have had, that we took for granted, perhaps in the 60s, 70s and before. But if those kinds of people start coming back to our campuses, it's going to make a huge difference. And I think, I want Deion to be successful. I want to see this happen while I'm alive. I saw it go the other way in my lifetime, but it needs to revert, right? FAMU and our coach, Willis Simmons, I put him up against anybody, right? I mean, anybody. He made a phenomenal turnaround, and that doesn't happen. You go from losing season to winning season and not even losing a single home game or one game in the conference. That's just remarkable. So I put Will up against anybody. But right now, for sure, Deion's coming to Jackson State University is going to put a spotlight on them. Some very talented young men who are thinking about where to go and play football are going to give Jackson State a serious look, right? But when they see us beat them in the Orange Blossom, they can say, well, maybe FAMU is the right place to go.
Absolutely.
So Greg, there's a Facebook page that when the announcement came out about A&M moving to the SWAC, we probably shouldn't say, but Rattlers are a game. The FAMU, we come hard. And so we got in that SWAC trash talk group and completely took it over. So I would love to hear Greg's how you're feeling about us going over to the SWAC. I'm excited. I'm excited about them. I mean, we'll miss the MEAC for sure because the MEAC has been where we've been, but I'm excited about the SWAC. And I would love to get your thoughts on what impact you think that's going to have on raising money, because that's kind of what we're talking about, and generating some excitement about A&M.
Yeah. I think the big thing is going to create some natural rivalries that once existed in the SIAC when we were playing there. I think we're going to start to pack out the stadium, especially when you're talking about Alabama State's 3 hours away from Tallahassee. Those kind of things, those games that's coming, I think they're going to be good. And then football, the football fans and the SWAC, they swag a little bit different. So it's going to be some trash talking every single weekend. Yeah. But I don't have any worries, team, about what we're going to do. Best wishes to Dion, the president of Jackson State Alumni Association, Dr. Norwood. Best wishes for you. But come Labor Day weekend in Miami next year, you're about to see the full force of the Rattler Nation down there. I'm just gonna call it the way it is, and that's the way it's gonna be. But I'm looking forward to it. Great presidents in the SWAC. I think that we're gonna come in and certainly elevate, along with Cookman. We're gonna elevate and add to the conference, and I'm looking forward to it. But I'm gonna tell you what's gonna really get good. As a former baseball player, the baseball is gonna get excellent.
Absolutely.
And point that. I think that you're going to finally get an HBCU that's going to get a shot at the College World Series. Baseball is going to be that good.
I agree.
So I think we're fine. I think we're going to be just fine. We made a good decision, and we just going to get behind the kids and do what we got to do. And Rattler Nation, we got to continue to travel. We got to continue to write checks to the athletic program. We can't take our foot off the gas. Where we got $10 million coming and the field house is under renovation, all that stuff, but we can't take our foot off the gas because everybody else is going to continue to move as well. So I'm happy with the move, and kudos to Coach Simmons. I wish we could play, but I decided I put the jersey on today just to show some love to my football team. And
I just want to say, we did get the 10 million, but as Dr. Robinson and Greg said, that's to renovate Bragg Stadium. We need the donations to the program to help support our students, right? So the dollars that you give, know that goes to supporting the students from their scholarship needs, the students from their academic support services needs, and the students from their nutritional programming needs. So understand, I don't want anybody to think that 10 million means you don't need to give. No, you need to give because we can only use that 10 million to renovate Bragg. So I just want to make sure that people understand that the donations are very much needed. And we want to be able to not just trash talk, because we're going to talk anyway it go. Right. But if we want it to be backed up, we got to support our student athletes, right? And so your donations go a long way to ensuring that we're able to do that.
And the athletic director, Gaucher, Director AD Gaucher, I think is doing a phenomenal job. I've been had the opportunity to meet him at Classic last year in Orlando, and I'm excited about all of the things that he is doing and really focusing our efforts on giving back to athletics. So anytime alumni call me and ask me, well, Monica, where is the biggest need? I said, y'all give to athletics. Y'all love football. We're not having homecoming, and I'm going to kick it. We're going to talk about that in 2 seconds. We're not having homecoming, but all the homecoming money that you would spend in Tallahassee, go ahead and give that to the athletic department and AD Gaucher to help those student athletes. So there's a gap. Y'all don't put the homecoming funds aside. Go ahead and take some of those funds and give them to the athletic department. But since we're not having homecoming, and anybody can jump in on this, we have about 11 minutes left. What are we doing? Because I know I'm having homecoming withdrawals. I was planning listen. So last year I could not go. I had to cancel because I had trial, and so I had a fear of missing out. I was suffering from FOMO watching people party in Tallahassee, and I was planning to come. Got my hotel room in May. No, I'm lying. In February. Then COVID hit and I had to get my money back. So what are we doing for homecoming?
I'm going on record. I want drive-by homecoming. We just drive by. Have the 100 plan while you drive by, have signs.
So what is the plan? What is the plan for homecoming, since that is a major hit for us? Anybody?
Well, I think before we get there, let's ease back and don't pass by Founders Day.
Yes,
which is
so I'm gonna let you start, Greg, and then I'll jump in. Then Dr. Robertson can pull up the rear.
Thank you. So next Saturday is Mother FAMU's 133rd birthday, right? Which is important.
Yeah.
So one thing that we pulled together was an alumni symposium. Since homecoming is going to be in the month of October, like, okay, let's try to pull something together. I'm just going to quickly give you some of the highlights of it. Of course, we're going to do our general body meeting at the Alumni Association, finish that out. You'll get an opportunity to hear from the athletic director. You're going to have a chance to hear from the SJ president. Dr. Robbins will be bringing the birthday message that day. And then after he finished, we're going to raise some money. All right, Rattler Nation, we need to raise $1 million next Saturday morning. All right. So one of the things that we're doing is ask from us from the NAA is, in honor of the 133rd birthday, all alumni and friends give $133. Now you can do more than that. You can move the decimal over and make that work. And with students, $18.87. This is all trying to help drive that fundraising, those fundraising numbers. After we finish raising those dollars, we're going to talk about recruiting students in a COVID environment. Man, I just talked about, we still got to send the university some students. And then after that, we're going to go into advocating. How do we tackle those legislative priorities the president want to get done in a COVID environment? And then later that evening, we're going to have a DJ come in. We're going to have a big party and membership drive. So that's it in a nutshell. Dr. Friday Strides, you can take it from here.
All right. So as Greg said, he'll be kicking it off with the NAA on October 3rd. And then we will be having, homecoming. We typically, showcase our donors. And so what we're going to do is we'll have some virtual donor showcases, if you will, not just those that would have come across on the field during halftime, during the game, but we're going to honor some of our everyday Rattlers, right? Because we have some Rattlers, they have been giving, $20 every month for the last 20 years. And so they may not make it to come out on the field, but they are the tried and true, right? They are not fair weather donors. They are the tried, true, and we want to recognize those. So what you'll start seeing is after the Founders Day activities with the National Alumni Association, we will kick off some donor spotlights and appreciations and recognitions, and then we'll carry some things through closer towards the end of the year, because we know that we will also have Giving Tuesday and try to get a big push for the end of the year donation. So you'll start to hear more coming out around the time after the NAA's event. Because we want everybody right now to be focused on the NAA's Founders Day celebration. And so, as Greg said, we work together. Nobody's trying to step on anybody's toes. So it's no need in us trying, we're not competing, we're supporting. And so we'll kick our stuff off after Greg and the NAA have an awesome Founders Day whole day and end up with a party. You started out, Keith, I think at the beginning of the segment to say, people want to know why should they send their kids to FAMU and they party. But, what I would say is, as I tell our students all day, every day, you have to first work hard before you could play hard. Right. So if you're not getting the work, if you're not taking care of the business in the classroom, then, we can't do any partying. And so the one thing that I love about FAMU is that when you see all of the alums partying, you're seeing people who are accomplished, people who are doing things in their everyday life that they partied after they got that done. And, I tell people, I'm reminded when we do all of our corporate engagement opportunities and right now, clearly given the environment that we're in, we are getting a lot of companies that were either not engaged with us or wanting to re-engage with us. And I even just get amazed, like I'm here on campus. Well, we virtual right now, but here in Tallahassee, I know what's going on campus. And sometimes I too have to be reminded of all the awesome things that are happening in all the schools and colleges on our campus. And, Dr. Robinson will ask us, what's the best college or school on the campus? And it's all of them, right? That's how we got to 117. That's how we made it to the #1 public HBCU. And so, I don't care if you want to go into the field of medicine, if you want to go into architecture, if you want to go into engineering, if you want to go into the fine arts, if you want to, if you want to act, whatever it is you want to do, it's at FAMU for you to do. And I tell students, and if we don't have it, just tell us what you want to make happen. Between our connections and our alums, we can get you to where you want to be. As Dr. Robinson always says, you can get anywhere from Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University.
Amen.
I think that's fantastic. And I know we're coming up on the top of the hour in the end of our show, but I know we have a couple minutes left. Dr. Robinson, we would love to hear from you. Why should we get excited about this year's homecoming?
Well, first, let me tell you that before we forget, right? Remember, this is an election year. In fact, there's an election all of the time, everywhere. And I want all the Rattlers out there to know. And what made me extremely proud is that earlier this week, our Student Government Association and the leadership of Xavier McClinton, along with Oscar Joyner, they have a special voter registration initiative. We held virtually. We had some of our outstanding alums like Anika Noni Rose to speak and others encouraging people to vote, and not just in the big elections, right? But all of the time, okay? And I just want people to keep that with them as we talk about homecoming and all these other things. What makes FAMU so special and, historically black colleges and universities, and, it's this thing we call homecoming, right? I mean, it's really something special. And I had not seen anything like it until, 25 years or so ago on this campus. And it gives you that special opportunity to bond, reconnect with people you knew, and then be amazed by all of the great things that people are doing that you hadn't heard about, right? And just be stunned, right? And say, wait a minute, you doing what, and so forth. And it's just a wonderful time. And homecoming, although in the middle of it, there's a football game, there's a parade and all of that, but it's really the reconnecting or the connecting of people that makes it so special. And that's what's so important about Rattlers is the connections that we have. I tell parents and students all of the time, if you want to build lifelong relationships and connections, come to Florida A&M University. And if you don't believe it, come back to us in mid-October, early November sometimes, and experience this thing with us that we call homecoming. You will see. This is a phenomenal event. And, it just touches me every time I go. It's a lot of work. We start on a Sunday and we end on a Sunday. But, the work of a real Rattler never ends, right? There's no start and stop date. It's continuous. But Charles knows that. The leadership team knows that. That's how hard we have to work. But, things take on a different dimension when homecoming comes around. You see all these wonderful Rattlers coming back. What we've been doing each year, I just regret we can't do it this year. Each year, we've had a theme. A couple of years ago, we had, mayors, right? We had enough, Rattlers who were serving as seated mayors to honor, 6 or 7 people, the major, municipalities around the nation. Last year we honored leaders in education, superintendents, college presidents, community college presidents, right? It's just amazing. And so I don't know where to go next, team. Maybe it's the business and industry arena, right? Maybe it's great athletes. We got so many, we don't have to spend a whole lot of time about it, but that's the part that I'm going to miss more than anything. Is just, getting up early that Saturday morning before sunrise, going to that parade, and then seeing the thousands of people, right, lining the streets, for that parade, and then all the other things. And I think it ends appropriately, our homecoming activities with a gospel concert, right? Because we really have to be thankful, for all that we have. at this institution so much that we take for granted. We really have to be thankful and remember, we didn't get here alone, right? And remember that the greater force has been with us for 133 years and allows us to come together, once a year to celebrate this wonderful thing we call homecoming.
And before we're going to wrap up, but two Rattlers have created this shirt, and I know you all have seen it, that FAMU changed my life. And so as we lead out, if you all want, we got 2 seconds. So in one or two words, share with our listening audience how FAMU changed your life. And I just want to thank you all for joining us. Today's been a phenomenal conversation. I wish we could go on for another 30 minutes. But how did FAMU change your life? I knew we were going to end it. We'll start with you, Dr. Robinson.
Well, I've always had an appreciation for the wonderful things that Black folks do. But FAMU changed my life by allowing me to go to Washington, D.C. and serve as an assistant secretary for the first African-American president in the history of this nation, something I will never forget.
Absolutely.
Lisa.
Take yourself off mute. Take yourself off mute. You're on mute.
First, before I say anything, Keith and Monica, I just want to say thank you for partnering with us and having us on your show today. I think it's been very effective, efficient, and successful, and we've shared a lot of information. Also, before we exit, I just want to put to your listeners that if anybody does need help or has questions about how to give, what to give, please call the FAMU Foundation, or you can contact us. We'd be more than glad to help you. And I would just say, FAMU didn't change my life, FAMU made my life. Right? And, and I've shared this, the first thing that comes to mind, I got the education, my husband, I got value. And, Jean Mobley, phenomenal woman. She taught us so much. She was so strategic. When I remember that first year, I said, how can she expect us to do all this work? But you know what? We figured out we can't. Yeah. We have to do it together. And so when I think back, that was strategic because she made us do what we needed to do in order to be successful. So there are so many other things, but that's my piece.
That's good, Greg.
And my kids.
Greg.
One sentence. FAMU prepared me for the experience of leadership, period.
Good. Dr. Friday Stroud.
So like Lisa, I'm gonna have to say, I got my husband here and Dean Mobley, right? Because when I tell you, I've never thought I would end back up at FAMU after graduation, but she recruited me hard and made some stuff happen. And I'm forever thankful for all that she's done, not just for me, but, I look my family and what she's imparted in me for me to be able to do for other people, because I always felt like I wanted to be able to give a lot to students, and she created that platform. So I'm forever grateful and thankful to her.
Well, and we are thankful to you. We counted out, Robbery, that you would take out an hour of your Saturday to chat with us and to be our special guest. This has been a special show. We appreciate y'all.
We're so thankful.
And go ahead.
Oh, HC 2020 Challenge. Now the Rattlers have thrown the gauntlet down. We have been on here for an hour talking about how phenomenal FAMU is. There are 106 other HBCUs who I know probably feel the same way. We may respectfully disagree, but we're giving you an opportunity to come on our show and talk about your HBCU.
Right. Everybody tune in at 12:30 for our Soul Purpose Lounge, and tune in next week for more HBCU Challenge. Thank y'all so much. Be blessed.
Thank you all. Have a good
Keep striking from the top, guys.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.